Story 1, we'll see. Poor parents when their kids ask to do something that costs money. You know they are struggling internally to respond like this. I did. Story 2, we will celebrate next month. I'm not hungry, you kids eat. I will just have tap water. No, you cannot have popcorn at the cinema. Do not throw it out, we can use it. I can make this last another week. I will pay you back when I get paid. Do not get hurt, we cannot afford it. Story 3. My vision has only deteriorated slightly. Excellent. I can get a new pair of glasses next year. Story 4. I had a large lunch at work today. You can eat as much as you want. Just leave your plate when you're finished, and I will clean up. Story 5. Calling dental offices to find out which ones allow payment in installments can be discouraging when faced with repeated refusals. Story 6. Going to an unclaimed freight warehouse and looking for canned goods. Searching for the best discounts on dented cans and excited to find fresh canned peaches when opening them. Feeling happy about purchasing so many and hoping they were all the same since they could be used as a special dessert treat once a week. Having your grandmother's famous pasta for the 5th consecutive day for the 3rd week in a row. How could you complain? People came from all over Sicily to get a taste of it. My dad made up stories about how wonderful it was, singing and doing a happy dance while preparing it to distract me from realizing how poor we were. He even had me wash my hands so he could lift me to add special ingredients to the pot, teaching me the magically guarded family secrets with a wink and a smile. My parents tried very hard to distract us from our circumstances. Story 7. Once I got my driver's license, I was tasked with bringing bills to the water department and the electric company. I asked my mom why we didn't just mail them in, and she explained that when you mail a check, it gets cashed earlier. However, if you bring it in person, you can wait until the very last day it is due. Sometimes the money would be in the account on the very last day something was due, but not a few days earlier. Story 8. I appreciated Eddie Murphy's line, "We were so poor we had hamburger helper." I could totally relate. Story 9. The exact total of how much all the groceries in their cart will cost. I am skilled at catching pricing errors that are not in my favor, even now that I am comfortably middle class. Story 10. When I asked my mom why she didn't have a meal while my brothers and I enjoyed the tastiest meals on many occasions, she simply replied, "Not that hungry." I didn't realize until I was older that she sacrificed a lot so we could have things growing up, so we wouldn't be singled out in school, even at the expense of sometimes going without meals, giving up her social life and not treating herself. I'm sure many mothers and fathers do the same. My mom is my hero, and I always try my best to ensure she will never go without again. Sorry, I'm a mommy's boy. Story 11. There's food at home. The universal anthem for kids from low-income backgrounds. You could be staring at a fast food restaurant and still hear that line echo in your soul. Only those from underprivileged backgrounds truly understand what it's like to turn down a meal from McDonald's as if it were a luxury. Story 12. Can you give me a ride? I will give you $5 for gas. That was back when I was very poor about 10 years ago, when $5 was enough for gas to get a ride somewhere. Story 13. My mom always said to just choose the store brand because it is the same quality. As a child, having only generic food made me feel self-conscious. As an adult, I completely understand. Story 14. Is the check engine light on or blinking? If it's on, you have time. If it's blinking, that's an emergency. Story 15. Sleeping in your school clothes for the next day because your house was never heated and it was too cold to get dressed from pajamas. Story 16. Unfun fact. The phrase "money can't buy happiness" originated as a criticism of materialism and frivolous spending used by poor people toward the wealthy. More recently, it has been reversed and is used by the ruling class to justify not paying fair or livable wages. Story 17. Going to the discount rack at the grocery store for bruised fruit and stale bread, and searching for dented cans. Story 18. Deciding what to return in the checkout line at the grocery store when you don't have enough money to pay for everything. Story 19. You can't take time off for a doctor's appointment for fear that you will lose your job and become homeless. Story 20. How challenging it can be not to go from poor to homeless. How stressful the first of the month can really be. One of the biggest shocks I experienced after losing my place to live was when I was in a McDonald's, having scraped together enough extra money to buy a soda, and I realized that the young person who rang me up was probably going home for dinner. I was going back to my car to eat a plain cheese sandwich and watch videos on my cell phone all night, with my jacket wrapped around me. Story 21. This post reminded me of the extended periods as a child when the cable was cut off. My dad would go on a tirade about how it was a sacrifice we needed to make, how it was just a distraction, and how we needed to focus on our studies. While he was right, he still enjoyed his cigarettes and alcohol. Story 22. The doctors cannot do anything until the swelling goes down. Here's a splint I made from cardboard, and we will wrap it in a bandage. Take a pain reliever and we will go in 2 weeks. Story 23. For people who grew up without money and made it out, I definitely recommend this blog post called Poor in Tech. It resonated with me deeply. Story 24. I was staying at a shelter and would go to the food court at the mall. Sure enough, people would leave food, expecting the staff to clear it for them. I would swoop in, grab whatever food I could, and take off. Story 25. Time to reach out to the utility company. Can I borrow your phone to call my mom? Mine is out of minutes right now. I will stay right here, and I won't take too long, I promise. We will wait until it goes on sale. Story 26. Probably not relevant anymore, but growing up poor, we would put items on layaway, such as school clothes and large purchases like appliances. When I told my husband, who came from an upper-middle-class background, about this practice, he asked, "Why didn't you just put it on credit cards?" Story 27. Upon discovering that my summer tires are wearing down, I asked the mechanic if I could leave the winter tires on and purchase new winter tires in November. That would give me enough time to save up for half a set of tires. Story 28. Toast and cream of wheat soup for dinner just to try something different, then reflecting later in life that it was all you had in the house at the time. Story 29. Welfare burgers. I grew up eating them. It's when you mix fillers like bread, oatmeal, or other inexpensive ingredients into your ground beef to increase the quantity of burgers you can make. I also thought it was customary to always order soup at restaurants when I was a kid. Story 30. The discount Hostess store was always located on an unusual industrial road. While discounts were not available on Hostess products found in grocery stores, they did offer other baked goods at low prices. We enjoyed purchasing little spice cakes and imperfect archway cookies sold in 5-gallon buckets filled with fruit. They only had molasses cookies, which I loved. Sometimes we would buy a bucket and freeze them for later. Story 31. Not necessarily stating it, but observing the grocery store advertisements in the mail and making mental calculations to determine what you can purchase this week. Story 32. I owe 3 months on the electric bill. If I pay 1 month, that should keep them from cutting it off for another month. Story 33. Oh look, the free food table has an 8-pound can of chili. Let's grab it and figure out what to do with it. Story 34. I don't have money for food. People with money often think you are exaggerating and suggest alternatives like buying a raw chicken and roasting it instead. They forget that utilities such as natural gas and electricity cost money, and in the end, both cooked and uncooked options are out of your price range. When you say you don't have money to do something, they see it as stubbornness rather than a genuine struggle. Story 35. I never realized how strange it is to automatically try to fix things or get more use out of them instead of throwing them away. Buying a replacement feels like the ultimate last resort. However, I find my partner's family confusing. They claim they lived in poverty until recently, yet they throw out perfectly good items and waste resources needlessly. Once, while staying at their house, I bought a bucket to wash the car for about $1.50. They knew I had purchased it. After using it, I offered it to them in case they wanted to keep it rather than having me take it with me. They laughed and told me to throw it away. I was taken aback and confused by that reaction. They seemed appalled that I would want to keep a $1.50 bucket and were offended by my offer of such a cheap item. They viewed it as disposable after just one use. I was not raised this way, but I wasn't taught to say, "I'm poor." It's very confusing to me that they claim to be poor while behaving in this manner. Story 36. It dawned on me later that not all food is mixed with extra water, from omelets to eggnog to tomato sauce to scrambled eggs to pancakes, and that my mom did that to stretch the meal to feed a family of 6. The jokes were better, though. Hey, you want a wish sandwich? You wish you had a sandwich. Story 37. Let's put a big leather couch meant for indoors in the yard and sit on it while drinking every night as our main entertainment. I've been watching a lot of Ozark. Story 38. Saying, I'm really broke. Your friend, who has over 20,000 in savings and receives much help from their parents, responds with, I'm also really broke this month. I am truly happy for my friend, but it's difficult to hear someone compare their situation to mine when they talk about skipping social events due to being broke. Meanwhile, I have to lend money just to afford food this month. I really value my friend. He's my best friend. However, he just doesn't understand, though I'm glad he doesn't, what it is like to struggle with money to this extent. He grew up in a wealthy household, while I came from one where my mother always had to watch every euro to make ends meet. Our definition of broke is very different, which is okay, but it can be hard sometimes. Story 39. Add some water to the dish soap. It will last longer since we don't need it that concentrated. The same applies for shower gel, shampoo, hand wash, and literally any other product that can be diluted. Additionally, just add a few drops of water to the milk. We're low until tomorrow. Story 40. If you are near Gainesville, Florida, you can get your teeth cleaned for $45 at the Santa Fe College Dental Program. If you need dental work, they will refer you to the University of Florida Dental College. They offer the best dental work for low payments. Story 41. How even what seems like a small amount of money can make the greatest difference. When I was a graduate student decades ago, the difference $20 could make in my world was astronomical. I often had to choose between using money to put gas in the car or turning on the heat in the apartment. Story 42. I always keep 1.01 in my account so I can pass the pre-authorization and fill my tank before I overdraft. Story 43. We'll see, as in, can I have X, Y, Z? Can we go to this place or that place? We'll see means no 99% of the time. Story 44. How much will that cost me? What is my total? Do you accept debit? Can you split the payment? Can you match it? Story 45. Purposely delaying your electric bill payment because they won't notice until the next billing cycle, and then doing it again. Paying an extra $200 in late fees on your rent each month because you can never gather enough in time. In today's world, shutting off your debit card in your banking app so nothing processes, allowing you to keep that $30 for groceries. Feeling excited about getting dentures, going months without a dryer because you can't afford a used one, temporarily sending your kids to relatives because the electricity has been shut off and it's 45 degrees in the house, knowing how to obtain a payday loan and placing a stop payment on the check since they don't pursue you, scraping the inside of your windshield in winter at every red light and keeping the window cracked because your car has no heat or defrost. Story 46. Yes. Go and get a job. How do I get a job if I don't have suitable interview clothes? And how do I get there if I don't have transportation? And who will look after my child during the school holidays? Story 47. Observing the bottom shelves in a store helps improve the ability to identify what to buy and where to find it. Story 48. If we prepare it now, we can have beans for the rest of the week. Beans, cheese, and tortillas can be delicious if you have seasonings and creativity. Story 49. No one chooses to be poor. I don't know what it is about the world, but there is an underlying sentiment that people are poor because they choose to be. Those who are not poor often do not realize they feel this way, but individuals experiencing poverty feel it every day. This belief is so ingrained in our culture that even those living in poverty can think this way. Story 50. The plot of this question is to identify the less fortunate individuals on Reddit through the comments section. Story 51. Tax refund time is when you receive your Christmas presents and school clothes. If there is anything left after paying bills, car repairs, and purchasing a new or used washer or dryer. Story 52. I am confident I can resolve that issue myself. I believe I can create something similar in my garage. I am curious if this is functional. Story 53. A girl was trying to get the last of the mayonnaise out of a jar when a guy told her, "You need the end of the month spoon." She just replied, "What?" Yes, she grew up very privileged. Story 54. No, I'm not turning the heat on. You have blankets and jackets. Just layer up. And no, I'm not turning the air conditioning on while we sleep. Just lie still so you can cool off. Story 55. I am confident I can fix that. I won't need to get a new one, regardless of what is broken, whether it's a car, washing machine, or something else. Story 56. Everything is here, and most will break your heart. Story 57. Anything about arguing over nothing. A man killed his wife over a disagreement about the sauce he ate and didn't leave any for her. Story 58. Buying milk with a check at the grocery store and getting $50 cash back to deposit in the checking account helped prevent overdrafts. 20 years ago, it took a few days for a check to clear, giving me a bit of time until I got paid. Story 59. Oh, that's a nice glass bottle, as I look at some lemonade drink in it. Story 60. Every can of soup, whether condensed or not, was treated as though it was condensed and had water added to it. 4 kids on 1 can of soup. Don't forget to add water. Story 61. It's dollar bag day at the thrift store. I scoped out the clothes the week before to select what I wanted to put in my bag to get it at a discount. Story 62. I am canceling my birthday plans for this Saturday because I am too short on funds and do not want to risk my friends wanting to go out when I cannot afford it. Story 63. My mom used to always say, "We may be poor, but we're not dirty poor." She was referring to how many of the poor people we lived around had limited clothing, especially the children. They often wore hand-me-downs that were heavily stained or had holes in them. I was an only child, and my mom sacrificed a lot to maintain a large wardrobe for me. She would also iron my clothes before school, and we had the luxury of owning a washer. Story 64. 2 sayings that come to mind are ones my older brother loved to share. There's a lot of month left at the end of the money. I'm a little short on cash, so I'm going to have to sleep for dinner. Story 65. Ever since the recession hit, many new people have suddenly found themselves in financial distress. These individuals have no idea how to live without money. They are often referred to as the new poor. We represent the old poor. Story 66. The doctor asked me how I have been so disciplined with my weight loss. Simple really. Having bills to pay is great for my weight. Story 67. I hope my children leave food on their plates so I can have something to eat. Thankfully, those times are behind me. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.